Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today we are diving into the fascinating story of the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance this coin might look like an ordinary piece of pocket change, but behind it is a history filled with transition, scarcity, mistakes, and in some cases very high values in today's coin market. Let's start with the background. The Washington quarter had been in production since 1932, made primarily of 90% silver. But in the early 1960s silver prices began to climb and the United States Mint faced a serious problem. People were hoarding silver coins and melting them down for their bullion value. By 1964 the situation had grown critical. The Treasury decided to change the composition of the quarter. Instead of silver, the new coins would be made of a copper-nickel clad composition. The very first of these new clad quarters appeared in 1965. Now here is where things get interesting. The 1965 Washington quarter is a key coin because it marked the official end of silver quarters for circulation. Every coin dated 1965 and later was struck in the new clad metal. However, during the transition there were some rare mistakes. A small number of quarters dated 1965 were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets. These are incredibly rare and highly sought after. How can you tell the difference? A regular clad 1965 quarter has a copper-colored edge and weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver era quarter has no copper showing on the edge and weighs about 6.25 grams. Collectors test these coins carefully with a precise scale. If you ever find one, you could be holding a coin worth thousands of dollars. Most 1965 quarters in circulation today are common and worth face value, but condition matters. Circulated examples are generally worth 25 cents. Uncirculated mint state examples, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, can sell for $10 to $50 depending on eye appeal and luster. Gem quality coins in MS-67 condition are very scarce and can reach several $100s at auction, but the real treasures are the era coins. The 1965 silver quarter has sold at major auctions for well over $7,000 in high grades. Some examples have even topped $10,000. There are also off-center strikes, double strikes, and other minting errors from that year that can bring hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on rarity and condition. When looking at the market today, collectors continue to value 1965 quarters because they represent the turning point away from silver coinage in America. A typical clad example might not make you rich, but a rare error or a high-grade gem could absolutely be worth big money. Auction records prove that demand is strong and prices remain solid for the rarest survivors. So the next time you come across an old quarter from the 1960s, take a close look at the date and the edge. You just might discover a hidden treasure. That wraps up the story of the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. A coin that seemed ordinary but actually tells the tale of silver shortages, government changes, and rare mistakes that today command serious collector value. The 1968 Washington quarter is one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history and it continues to attract collectors and investors today. Although at first glance it looks like an ordinary quarter, the 1968 issue holds a special place because of its timing, design, and the transition the United States Mint was going through during the late 1960s. The Washington quarter itself was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It replaced the standing Liberty quarter and quickly became a standard piece of American pocket change. For decades the Washington quarter was struck in 90% silver, but by the mid-1960s silver had become too expensive to use in everyday coins. In 1965 the mint eliminated silver from the quarter and replaced it with a copper-nickel clad composition. This meant that the 1968 Washington quarter was no longer made of silver, but its importance lies in the fact that it was one of the first years the mint resumed putting mint marks on coins after temporarily removing them to discourage collectors from hoarding. The 1968 quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Philadelphia coins from that year carry no mint mark, Denver coins carry a small d mint mark, and San Francisco produced proof coins that carry an S mint mark. This makes the San Francisco proofs highly collectible, especially in top condition. Now let's talk about values. Most 1968 Washington quarters that you find in circulation today are only worth face value, 25 cents, because billions were made and most are very common. However, when you begin looking at high-grade examples or rare mint errors, the story changes dramatically. Uncirculated coins in mint state condition, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, can bring in several dollars to several $100 depending on luster, strike quality, and overall preservation. Proof coins from San Francisco are particularly desirable. A regular 1968 proof quarter might be worth only a few dollars, but cameo or deep cameo proofs with strong frost on the devices and mirrored fields can sell for significantly more. High-grade examples certified by professional grading companies have sold for over $100. Error coins are where the big money comes in. Quarters from 1968 with double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or coins struck on the wrong planchet have all sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. One of the most famous is the 1968 S-proof quarter with a double die obverse. Collectors are willing to pay serious premiums for these rare varieties. In the current market, as of today, typical circulated 1968 quarters are still only worth face value. Mint state coins in the MS-63 to MS-65 range generally sell between $5 and $20. Gem examples in MS-66 and higher can bring $100 or more, with exceptional coins reaching even higher prices. Proof coins from San Francisco usually sell between $3 and $15 depending on grade, but deep cameo examples in perfect condition have sold for several $100s. Error coins continue to be the real treasure, with rare examples pushing prices into the thousands. So what should you look for if you come across a 1968 Washington quarter? First, check the mint mark. Philadelphia coins are the most common, Denver coins are also plentiful, but San Francisco proof coins are the most collectible. Next, check the condition. Coins with no wear and sharp detail should be set aside for potential grading. Finally, inspect carefully for mint errors such as doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet issues. The 1968 Washington quarter tells the story of a nation transitioning away from silver coinage and into the modern era of clad coinage. It is a piece of history that you can still find in circulation, but with careful attention you might discover one worth far more than 25 cents. Whether you are a casual collector, an investor, or someone just curious about the change in your pocket, the 1968 quarter is a reminder that small coins can carry big stories and sometimes even bigger values. The 1979 Washington quarter is one of those coins that seems ordinary at first glance, but collectors know that certain features and varieties can turn it into something worth big money. Today we're diving deep into the full history of the 1979 quarter, why it matters, what to look for, and how much it's really worth in today's coin market. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Originally the design was meant to be temporary, but it became so popular that it stayed. For decades the quarter carried the familiar portrait of Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. That design continued right through the 1979 issue. Now, when we talk about the 1979 Washington quarter, there are a few important things to keep in mind. First, these quarters were made in very large numbers. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 600 million of them, the Denver Mint struck more than 400 million, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors. Because of those high mintages, the vast majority of 1,979 quarters you find in circulation today are worth only face value, 25 cents, but the real excitement comes when we look at condition, mint marks, and error varieties. If you have a coin in uncirculated condition, meaning it has never been used in commerce and shows no wear, the value goes up. A typical uncirculated 1979 quarter might bring $1 or $2 from a collector. But the higher the grade, the more it's worth. Coins that grade MS-65 or MS-66 by professional grading standards can bring $20, $50, or even more. The rarest high-grade examples, especially MS-67, can be valued in the hundreds. Proof coins from San Francisco with the S Mint mark are another category. In 1979 the Mint made both Type 1 and Type 2 proofs. The difference is in the mint mark style. Type 1 has a blob-like S that looks weaker, while Type 2 has a sharper, clearer S. The Type 2 proof is much scarcer and brings higher prices. A nice proof might sell for $5 to $20, while a perfect deep cameo Type 2 can sell for hundreds depending on demand. Error coins are the real jackpot for some collectors. If you ever come across a 1979 quarter with off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or other striking mistakes, you might be holding something very valuable. Some dramatic errors can fetch $50, $100, or even several hundred depending on how unusual they are. One thing collectors always emphasize is condition. A coin with scratches, dings, or heavy circulation wear will not bring much of a premium, even if it is an interesting year like 1979. But a pristine example, especially certified by a grading service, can be highly desirable. So what is the current market value today in 2025 for 1979 Washington quarters? Common circulated coins are still only worth face value, just 25 cents. Nice uncirculated pieces might bring $1 to $5. Higher grade mint state coins can range from $10 up to $100 or more. Proof coins, especially the scarce Type 2 San Francisco issues, can bring anywhere from $20 to several $100s depending on grade. And major mint errors can bring big money, sometimes selling for thousands when the error is dramatic enough and collectors are competing to own it. The lesson here is that not every 1979 quarter is worth a fortune, but certain varieties and conditions absolutely can be. If you find one in your pocket change, check for mint marks, check the condition carefully, and always look for signs of error strikes. It's worth setting aside the nicer examples because they are getting harder to find as time goes on. The Washington Quarter series is a cornerstone of modern coin collecting, and the 1979 issues represent an important late chapter before the big design changes of the state quarter program that began in 1999. Whether you're just starting out in the hobby or you've been collecting for years, the 1979 Washington Quarter is a great reminder that history and value can be hiding in plain sight in our everyday change. We are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern coins that has captured the attention of collectors and treasure hunters all over the United States and beyond. The coin in focus is the 1982 Washington Quarter Dollar. On the surface, it may look like just another quarter that you might find in your change, but when you look at the details, the history, the minting process, and the errors that came out of that year, you will see why some examples of this coin are worth far more than their face value. In fact, certain rare finds from 1982 have been auctioned for hundreds and even thousands of dollars, making them one of the most sought-after modern quarters in American coin history. Let's start with the background. The Washington Quarter has been in circulation since 1932 when it was first introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. From that point forward, it became the standard quarter design, with some minor adjustments through the years. Now fast forward to 1982. The Denver Mint, which is represented by the D Mint mark, produced an enormous number of Washington quarters that year, over 480 million in total. With such a large mintage, you would expect these coins to be very common, and indeed, most of them are. However, 1982 is special because of a key change made by the U.S. Mint. During that year, the Mint stopped producing proof sets and mint sets for circulation strikes. This means that collectors who normally purchased uncirculated coins directly from the mint were not able to do so for 1982. Because of this, finding truly high-quality, uncirculated examples of the 1982 Washington Quarter became much more difficult than in earlier or later years. As a result, demand has increased dramatically for coins that are well preserved, showing sharp details and minimal wear. Now, let's talk about the value. The average circulated 1982 quarter that you might find in your pocket change is generally only worth its face value of 25 cents. But if you have an example in mint state condition, the story changes completely. For instance, in lower mint state grades such as MS-60 to MS-62, these coins may be worth just a few dollars, maybe 5 or 10. But once you move up to MS-65 or MS-66, the price can climb into the tens or even low hundreds of dollars. At the very top, with coins graded MS-67 or better, you are looking at auction records where single coins have sold for more than $1,000. These kinds of coins are extremely rare, because very few 1982 quarters have survived with perfect or near-perfect surfaces. Another thing that makes the 1982 quarter interesting to collectors is the presence of certain errors and varieties. For example, some coins have strong doubling in the lettering or date, while others show striking weaknesses or misaligned dies. These errors, when verified by professional grading services, can add significant value. Even small anomalies can turn a regular quarter into a piece worth hundreds of dollars to the right collector. So what does this mean for you today? It means that every time you get change at a store, you might want to take a closer look at your quarters. Pay attention to the date, check for the D mint mark, and look carefully at the condition. If the coin shows no wear, has strong luster, and especially if it looks like it could qualify for a high mint state grade, it may be worth sending to a grading company. In today's market, the 1982 D Washington quarter remains one of the more desirable modern quarters. Collectors understand that it is difficult to find well-preserved examples, and the demand has stayed strong. In average circulated condition, it is still only worth a quarter. But in mint state grades, we are talking about anywhere from $10 to several $100s depending on quality. The true gems at MS67 or higher are the real treasures, worth $1,000 or more, and they are only becoming harder to find as more collectors lock them away in their collections. The Washington quarter is one of the most popular coins in American history, and collectors are always on the lookout for key dates, rare mint errors, and special coins that can be worth far more than their face value. Today we are talking about the 1984 D Washington $quarter coin. At first glance, this may seem like just another quarter from your change jar. But under the right conditions, certain examples of this coin can bring in serious money from collectors and at auctions. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over time, the design became a fixture of American coinage, and by 1965 silver was removed from the composition. The quarters from 1965 onward, including the 1984 issue, were made of copper nickel clad rather than 90% silver. This makes most of them only worth face value in circulation. However, some specific examples, especially those with high grades or mint errors, are extremely valuable. The 1984 quarter was minted at both Philadelphia and Denver, with the Denver Mint producing over 500 million coins that year. That is a massive mintage, which is why most 1984 D quarters are very common. If you pull one out of circulation today, chances are it will only be worth 25 cents. But the story changes when you start looking at condition and minting varieties. Collectors prize coins that are preserved in mint state condition. That means no wear from circulation, strong original luster, and sharp details. A 1984 D Washington quarter graded MS65 by a professional grading service may bring a few dollars. Move up to MS67 and you are suddenly looking at a coin that can sell for hundreds of dollars. The real prize is a flawless MS68 example, and only a tiny handful exist. When one of these coins hits the auction block, it can bring in over $1,000 or more, simply because of its rarity in that grade. Errors are another big factor. During the minting process, mistakes can occur, and collectors love these unique pieces. Some examples of valuable errors for the 1984 D quarter include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine finding a 1984 D quarter that was accidentally struck on a dime planchet. Suddenly, a 25-cent coin might be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most famous error varieties for quarters in the early 1980s involves double dies, where the design elements like the date, lettering, or motto show doubling under magnification. While not every double die brings big money, the more dramatic the error, the more collectors are willing to pay. Let's talk about the current market. Most 1984 D quarters in circulated condition are worth only face value. In average uncirculated condition, you might get $1 to $3. A certified MS66 example can trade in the $50 to $100 range depending on appeal. At MS67, auction prices often reach between $300 and $500. The highest known grades, MS68, have sold for well over $1,000. Rare error coins can sell anywhere from $50 to several thousand depending on the type and severity of the mistake. So the next time you are looking through your change, pay attention to those 1984 D Washington quarters. While the vast majority are worth only 25 cents, there are hidden treasures out there. A coin in pristine condition or one with a dramatic error can turn pocket change into serious cash. That is the story of the 1984 D Washington $quarter coin. It is a reminder that history, condition, and rarity all play major roles in coin collecting. Keep your eyes open, because you never know when a small detail on an ordinary coin could reveal a big surprise. We are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in modern United States coinage. The 1985 P Washington $quarter. At first glance this may look like just another common quarter from pocket change, but for collectors and coin hunters the 1985 P quarter can carry history, rarity, and even surprising value in today's market. Let us start with the basics. The Washington quarter design first appeared in 1932 to celebrate the 200th birthday of George Washington. It replaced the standing Liberty quarter and quickly became a symbol of stability during the Great Depression. By 1985 the mint in Philadelphia had already produced billions of Washington quarters. These coins were made from copper nickel-clad composition rather than the 90% silver that was used before 1965. The Philadelphia Mint in 1985 struck over 775 million quarters, so yes, they are common in circulation. But here is where things get interesting. Collectors do not simply look at how many coins were made. They look for condition, rarity, and errors. The 1985 P quarter is notorious because high-grade examples are much tougher to find than you would expect from a coin with such a high mintage. Most coins from circulation are heavily worn with scratches, dings, and loss of luster. Finding one in gem mint state with a grade of MS65, MS66 or higher is much more difficult than finding a brand new modern quarter today. Let us talk about grading value. In circulated condition, a 1985 P Washington quarter is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. However, if you move into uncirculated territory the price starts to climb. An MS63 coin might sell for just a few dollars, but MS65 coins regularly sell for $20 or more. When you reach MS66 the value can jump into the hundreds. And in the highest known grades like MS67 the coin can be worth over $1,000 depending on the market and demand at the time. But there is another reason collectors search through 1985 quarters. Minting errors. During the mid-1980s the Philadelphia Mint struggled with striking quality. Coins from 1985 often show weak strikes, die cracks, off-center strikes, and sometimes doubling on the lettering or the date. These errors transform an ordinary 25-cent piece into a collectible worth far more. A dramatic off-center strike could be worth $50 or more. A double die could bring in hundreds if authenticated. It is also important to note that the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark on quarters in 1985. So if you see a 1985 quarter with no mint mark, that is perfectly normal. Only quarters from Denver and San Francisco had mint marks that year. The San Francisco Mint struck proof coins for collectors, and those are another category to watch for. Proof 1985's Washington quarters were made with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. In deep cameo condition they can sell for $10 to $20 or more depending on grading. So what about today's coin market? As of now the general demand for Washington quarters continues to grow because more collectors are trying to complete full sets from 1932 up to the state quarters program and beyond. Even though 1985 P quarters are common in worn grades, high-end examples remain scarce. Auction results prove this again and again. A regular-looking quarter found in circulation might be only worth face value, but the same date in pristine gem condition could bring serious money. For example, some MS67 graded coins have sold for over $1,500 at major auctions. If you are hunting for one of these valuable examples, here is what you should do. Always check rolls of quarters from the bank. Look closely at the date and mint mark area with a magnifier to spot doubling or die cracks. Examine the overall strike quality. A sharp, bold coin with full details, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers on the reverse, will always bring stronger value. And remember, condition is everything. Even the tiniest scratch can knock a coin down from a four-figure value to just a few dollars. To wrap things up, the 1985 P Washington $quarter is a fascinating coin. On the surface it looks like an everyday piece of change, but history, quality, rarity, and mint errors can make it worth a lot of money in today's market. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just starting out, always keep your eyes open. You never know when that ordinary quarter in your pocket might actually be a hidden treasure. Why we are going to dive deep into the fascinating history and market value of one of the most interesting modern coins in American numismatics, the 1990p Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, the coin may look like an ordinary quarter that you might still see in your change today, but the truth is that certain examples of this coin have sold for surprisingly high amounts of money, and collectors continue to hunt for them in hopes of finding hidden treasure in circulation. Let us start with the history. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then it has remained one of the most iconic coins of the United States. By 1990 the quarter had already gone through decades of design changes and metal composition shifts. Originally the coin was made of 90% silver, but beginning in 1965 the U.S. Mint changed it to a copper-nickel clad composition due to rising silver prices. By 1990 all Washington quarters were struck in this copper-nickel clad format with a copper core and layers of nickel on the outside, giving it that familiar silvery appearance. Now the 1990 quarter minted in Philadelphia carries the P Mint mark on the obverse right beside Washington's ponytail. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins that year, making it a very common coin in general circulation. Because of that, most examples that you see today are only worth their face value of 25 cents. However, in coin collecting, rarity is not just about mintage numbers, it is also about condition and striking quality. This is where the 1990p quarter becomes extremely interesting. Collectors prize coins that have been preserved in pristine condition, known as mint state. A coin graded mint state 65 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can fetch significant premiums over face value. For the 1990p quarter, values in higher mint state grades can range from a few dollars up to hundreds depending on how perfect the coin is. An example graded mint state 67 can easily bring $100 to $200. If you find a specimen in mint state 68, you are looking at a coin worth several $100s to possibly over $1,000 depending on demand at auction. Even more valuable are special errors and varieties. Error coins occur when something goes wrong in the minting process. For the 1990p Washington quarter, collectors have identified dramatic off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and double die errors. An off-center strike that is clearly visible with details missing on one side of the coin could sell for $50 to several $100s depending on how dramatic the error is. A missing clad layer coin that exposes the copper core can be worth a few $100s as well. And of course, double die errors where the design appears doubled are always popular among collectors and can bring strong prices. What really excites collectors is the combination of rarity and condition. For example, in recent years at major coin auctions, some 1990p Washington quarters in extremely high grade have sold for over $2,000. These are not your average pocket change coins, but carefully preserved examples with sharp detail, blazing luster, and absolutely minimal contact marks. When we talk about current market value, it is important to remember that the coin market is always influenced by collector demand. Today the 1990p quarter in average circulated condition is only worth 25 cents. But in mint state 65 you may be looking at $10 to $20. Mint state 66 jumps higher with values around $50 to $75. Mint state 67 is a real prize ranging between $100 and $250. And in mint state 68 you are entering the $1,000 plus territory, which is an amazing return for a coin minted in such large quantities. So what does this mean for you? It means that it is worth carefully checking the change in your pocket or rolls of quarters from the bank. While most will only be worth face value, there is always the chance that you could uncover a gem quality piece or even a dramatic error that could put real money in your hands. The thrill of the hunt is what keeps coin collecting alive, and the 1990p Washington quarter is a perfect example of how an ordinary coin can hold extraordinary potential. In summary, the 1990p Washington quarter may seem common, but the key is in the details. Condition matters, errors matter, and collector demand matters. While the majority will only buy you a cup of gumballs from a vending machine, the rarest examples in top grade have been known to sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just someone who enjoys searching through change, this coin serves as a reminder that history and value can still be found in everyday money. The 1987 P Washington quarter dollar is one of those coins that looks very ordinary at first glance. Most people have probably seen one in their pocket change without giving it a second thought. But in the world of coin collecting, even a common quarter can have a fascinating story and in some cases can be worth a surprising amount of money. To understand the value of the 1987 P quarter, we need to go back to its origins. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 1987. The P mint mark is located on the obverse side just to the right of George Washington's ponytail. Like all Washington quarters from that era, the coin is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. It has a weight of 5.67 grams and a diameter of 24.3 millimeters. In terms of history, the Washington quarter design had already been in circulation for more than 50 years when the 1987 edition was struck. The obverse still carried the portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan back in 1932. The reverse showed the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings and a bundle of arrows in its talons. This design remained standard until the introduction of the state quarters in 1999. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 640 million 1987 quarters. That huge mintage means most examples are only worth their face value of 25 cents. If you find one in your pocket change today, the odds are very high that it is just a common circulation piece. But collectors are always looking for examples in pristine condition. That is where the value begins to climb. A 1987 P quarter in uncirculated mint state condition can bring a small premium. At lower mint state grades like MS60 through MS63, the coin might be worth around $1 to $3. At higher grades such as MS65 or MS66, the value increases further, sometimes into the range of $10 to $20. Coins that grade MS67 or higher become significantly scarcer and can be worth well over $100. The highest quality coins are sometimes certified by professional grading companies. Collectors pay big money for coins that achieve top population reports in these services. For example, a 1987 P Washington quarter graded MS67 or MS68 by PCGS or NGC can command strong prices at auction. Some of these coins have sold for several $100s depending on eye appeal and demand. Errors and varieties are another important factor. Like any modern coin, the 1987 P quarter can have striking errors or planchet flaws. Off-center strikes, double strikes, and clipped planchets are among the errors that bring premiums. Collectors also search for double die obverse or reverse varieties, though no major ones are widely recognized for the 1987 P. Still, any unusual striking anomaly can increase a coin's value beyond its normal range. Another consideration is proof versions of the 1987 quarter. While Philadelphia did not strike proofs, the San Francisco Mint did strike special proof coins for collector sets in both clad and silver compositions. These proofs are not circulation strikes, but they are often collected alongside the regular 1987 P and 1987 D quarters to complete a year set. The silver proof especially carries more value due to its metal content and mirror-like finish. In today's coin market, the 1987 P quarter is generally common, but it teaches an important lesson. Condition and rarity determine collector value. While most coins from this year remain at face value, the highest quality mint state examples and certified top-grade coins can bring significant premiums. In a few cases, a single coin has sold for hundreds of dollars, turning a humble pocket quarter into a prize for collectors. If you are searching through change or coin rolls, always keep an eye out for a sharp, lustrous, uncirculated 1987 P quarter. It may look ordinary, but under magnification you could be holding a coin that is scarce in top condition. So to summarize, the 1987 P Washington quarter is a common circulation coin with over 600 million struck, but in uncirculated grades, especially at MS67 and higher, it becomes valuable. Common circulated pieces are worth only 25 cents, mint state coins can range from $1 to $20, and top grade or error examples can climb into the hundreds. For collectors, it is a reminder that even modern coins can have hidden gems if you know what to look for. The 1990 D Washington quarter dollar may look like just another piece of pocket change, but coin collectors know it can sometimes be worth far more than its face value. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint and bears the D Mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. It belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series which started back in 1932 to celebrate the 200th birthday of George Washington and has since become one of the most collected and studied series in American coinage. In 1990 more than 900 million quarters were struck at the Denver Mint. That huge number means that for the most part the 1990 D quarter is considered common in circulation and most examples that you find in pocket change are only worth 25 cents. However, condition and rarity always matter in coin collecting, and that is where some of these coins can command impressive prices on the market. Circulated examples that show where are generally worth only face value, but uncirculated quarters, especially those graded mint state 65 and higher by professional grading services, can bring a few dollars each. That may not sound like much, but for modern coins with such high mintages even a small premium is a good sign of collector demand. Now when we move into high-end gem condition the numbers get more exciting. A pristine example in mint state 67 can sell for around $50 to $100 depending on the current market. The real money comes in when we talk about the very top of the grading scale. Coins certified mint state 68 with perfect luster and strike have been known to sell for several $100s at auction. One of the highest prices ever realized for a 1990 D Washington quarter was over $1,500 for a superb MS-68 coin with flawless eye appeal. There are also error coins and varieties that make the 1990 D quarter even more valuable. Collectors are always on the lookout for off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and other mistakes from the minting process. These can transform an ordinary coin into a prized rarity. Values for such error coins vary widely from $50 to several hundred or more depending on the type and severity of the error. As for the current market today in 2025, demand for Washington quarters remains strong. Collectors love building complete date and mint mark sets, and high-grade certified coins are especially popular. While most 1990 D quarters will still be worth only face value, the very best examples in near-perfect condition continue to sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If you happen to come across a coin like this in your collection or pocket change, it could be worth sending in for professional grading. Just one flawless coin could be worth a lot of big money. So in summary, the 1990 D Washington quarter dollar is a common modern coin in circulation, but in gem uncirculated condition or with major mint errors it can bring significant premiums. Ordinary examples are worth 25 cents, but the finest ones certified at the highest grade levels can be worth hundreds or even over $1,000. This is why coin collectors always check their change carefully. You never know when a small piece of history could turn into a valuable treasure.